So I'm from the Scanlon Foundation Research Institute. We've been undertaking a mapping social cohesion project since 2007, and it looks across the entire population, even though our focus is particularly on social cohesion as it relates to the transition of migrants, but we can tell you an awful lot about the general population anyway. Our report is about 100 odd pages, so I've only got a short selection of slides to whet your appetite, but you can certainly go to our website if you'd like to see the full report. We, back in 2007, did a lot of international research to identify what were the key components to social cohesion. And so each year we look at belonging, worth, social inclusion and justice, participation and acceptance and rejection. And there are over 100 questions that people answer. And in our last survey, over 8,000 people answered these questions. So it's a very substantial survey, and it's a very substantial number of people to share their particular views about social cohesion and their experiences. This is what we're able to do with all of these questions is to take it down to a single number, which represents what is called the Scanlon Index of Social Cohesion. And you can see here, and you will have heard, well, you may not have heard, but some people are saying that social cohesion is in complete disarray. In actual fact, it isn't in complete disarray at all. And you will see there that, in actual fact, the number has not changed. Between 2023 and 2024, the level of social cohesion in Australia stayed the same. So it is not falling apart. We are going through all sorts of different things that buffer social cohesion, but in actual fact, social cohesion in Australia is very strong. Interestingly enough, though, when you look at those 5 different domains, it changes over your lifetime. So young people, for instance, so that single line through the middle, the 0, that's the national average. So you can see that young people are below the national average on belonging and worth and social justice and participation, but unbelievably high on acceptance. They're very happy to talk to anybody about anything. You'll be very pleased to know, Alex. But over our lifetime, that changes. And so you'll see that for people that are 75 and older, their sense of belonging and worth and social justice and participation is really high, but their level of acceptance is, 33% below the national average. So it is particularly interesting, that dynamic that changes over your lifetime. Now, I can tell you why that's the case, but I'll answer that if that's a question. Otherwise, I'll keep going because we'll run out of time. For people who've newly arrived in Australia as well, the dynamic is quite interesting. You can see that when they first arrive, their level of sense of belonging, of course, is quite low, and that's what you would expect. But their feeling about social justice and their feeling about acceptance is very high. But the longer they're here, the closer they get to the same as the rest of the population. So here, by the time they're here for, 20 plus years, they're getting closer and closer. Some things are still different, but in actual fact, they're getting much closer to the Australian-born average. Interesting here, that this is talking about national pride and belonging, people's sense of pride towards Australia as a whole. And you can see here that it has actually been dropping somewhat, and it's not particularly high. So people who take pride in the Australian way of life, the sense of belonging in Australia to a great extent, or feeling strongly about maintaining the Australian way of life and culture is important. All of those things are declining somewhat. And it's important to start to think about whether or not that matters or why that might be the case. In addition, there is some concern for the future, which is not surprising to anybody. There's certainly people who are pessimistic about Australia's future, and there are people who believe that their life in Australia won't be any better in 3 to 4 years' time, and those numbers are on the increase. You'll notice that there's, in some of these slides, quite a distinct difference around what happened around COVID times compared to where things are now. But attitudes to multiculturalism in Australia are unbelievably high. I mean, just astronomically high. That very highest number, the green, you can see that's an agreement that somebody who was born outside Australia makes just as good a citizen as somebody who was born here. And that's at 92%. These are the sorts of things that we should be incredibly proud of. The fact that there is People think that multiculturalism has been good for Australia, that it brings new ideas, that it's good for the economy, that accepting migrants from many different countries makes Australia stronger. These are unbelievably high numbers, and we should be really, really proud of them. At the same time, another thing to be quite comfortable about is that generally Australians are non-discriminatory. We actually don't mind whether you come, what religion you bring, whether or not you are of different race or ethnicity. It doesn't really matter. We're quite comfortable with anybody coming. We might be a little bit uncomfortable at times about the numbers that come, but generally we're very comfortable about who's coming. But some of you will be interested and know about views right now that are being discussed about whether or not we have particular views about people from the Jewish faith or people from the Muslim faith. Generally, those positive attitudes have gone down for both people of the Jewish faith and people of the Muslim faith. But in actual fact, they've gone down for every single religion. Every formalized religion has dropped down. And this is a real recognition of the fact that Australia is a secular society. Australians don't believe that religion should be the thing that is leading the way. In actual fact, we're very happy for anybody to come, for them to follow their faith, to live their faith, whatever that is, but it shouldn't necessarily be something that is driving policy within Australia. Neighbourhood cohesion then, if you want another positive, is in actual fact really, really high. Our neighbourhood cohesion is one of our greatest strengths. And the fact that it's up there at 82% is very, 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 very good. It's also very, very reassuring, and I'll tell you why in a minute. Generally, Australians are happy. Unfortunately, even though some of them might be lonely, they're often also happy. It's quite astonishing. The difference between the 85 and the red and the purple is a methodology piece. But essentially, people have been happy in Australia for quite a long time. But what I really want to draw your attention to is, regardless of your economic circumstances, if you live in an area of high neighbourhood cohesion, your level of happiness goes way up, way, way up. So what we want to do is to really concentrate on that neighbourhood cohesion. How well we get on together. That's what Alex was talking about, that getting out and talking to each other. So I thought I would just tell you a few things about what we can do to strengthen our social cohesion. We can be optimistic. Optimism, hope, it's really, really important to be optimistic. It's important for you, it's important for the others around you to be optimistic, and you've got a lot of reasons to be optimistic. It's about building that neighbourhood cohesion I just mentioned. The more we can do to actually engage with others and to build that sense of neighbourhood cohesion is really important. Focus on issues and not on categories. Don't divide people up by some sort of visible difference or ideology or whatever. Focus on what's common. What are the common issues that we've got amongst ourselves? Encourage positive belonging. Now, I talk about negative belonging and positive belonging, and it takes, I could talk about it for a while, but essentially there are lots of places where people go to which are not necessarily constructive, but give them a sense of belonging. So if you think bikie gangs and that sort of thing, they're actually set up specifically to attract people into a direction that is not constructive for society, but it gives them a sense of family. So in actual fact, we want to encourage people to move more in a direction of positive belonging. We also need to make sure that there is honesty and transparency. People need to be able to trust each other, so they need to be able to know that you're being honest and transparent with them. Build civic knowledge. Make sure that people understand how our democracy works, why people going out there and protesting is a good thing, not the violent side, but doing protesting is a good part of democracy. We also need to build familiarity within each other, so part of, again, what Alex was talking about, is another important element. But also that we need to remember that we are not the United States, and there is a lot of things about Australia that set us apart, and so people should not be worried that suddenly tomorrow we're going to turn into the United States. We're not. Anyway, that's me, so thank you.